I must be gaining weight. It gets harder and harder to get my feet out every time. I'm about to say it, so are we ready? Oh, hey. How are you? Y'all gonna count me in, or is it, oh, we're ready? Okay. Good morning. Call the work session to order for the City Council for Thursday, July the 27th, 2023. Mr. George Irby is going to open us in prayer.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings you bestow upon us. We thank you for the day. We thank you for waking us up this morning so that we can continue to do the things that you would have us to do. We complain about the heat, Lord, but we want to thank you for life itself and the opportunities to make things right that we have wrong. We pray that the meeting today be done in a decent and orderly manner. We pray that when we leave here, we'll all be on one accord or planning to get on one accord. And Lord, as we sit here, let us always know where our blessings come from, that we always give you the thank you for the things you do. Please don't bless me, we ask in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Irby. We have these work sessions each Thursday before our council meetings on the upcoming Tuesday of each month. And the purpose of this is for us to be able to discuss some of the issues that we'll be working on with the City Council at the next meeting, and to also give citizens a chance to give their input and ask questions about the issues that are going on in their city. Today we have a few topics that we're going to go over. If you've got an agenda in front of you, we're going to look at we're going to get an update on the Red Cup District. We're going to do, we've got representatives from government consultants who are working with us on our Probst Park bond funding. And then we're going to talk about paving and the budget calendar and anything else that the council might want to bring up while we're here. But I want to change from the agenda just a little bit, and I want to start with Nick and the guys from government consultants to give us an update on the Probst Park bond funding. This is Nick Shore.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Good to be here. I know we just wanted to get an update, a couple of questions about timing, process, a few other things that are going on there. So I think after this next meeting here, the next step would be to do a subsequent resolution, to be a bond resolution or parameters resolution, really what we call it. That'll kind of root out a few more items that we'll need to define. And by parameters, we know that we have an amount. We have a not to exceed $3 million. So that's the most amount. We have a 10-year term based off of the local and private that provides a special sales tax. And that generates $400,000. So we know that there's an annual amount of money that we have. And so with those three things, the next piece of it is really defining on the best method of sale, which I think really looking at doing a revenue pledge rather than a GO, making it subject to the special sales tax and utilizing that special sales tax to go towards the project, the cost, the debt, a few other things. And I think one other update too to think about, we asked a little bit of patience on. I know the auditors are here today. They're working on the 21 audit right now. It's about 30 days away to complete that audit. So if we can kind of hold the financing piece a little bit longer to complete that audit, I think that will help potentially with just kind of the breadth of purchasers and a wider audience of investors and banks that have an opportunity who would like to probably offer to purchase and put some of the financing here at the city as well. So I think there's a little bit of a good component for letting that 21 audit finish out, and particularly if it's in the next 30 days. One other thing too, I think we sometimes need to remind ourselves that the bond process, it's about a 90-day process from start to finish. Right? There's a lot of benchmarks, a lot of things have to happen inside of there. And I think part of some of the things I understand is that some parts of the project will have to be bid out. And we like to match the financing to those construction bids. And so if there's the bulk of the project costs or certain aspects of it are going to go through a bid process. We'd like to let the bid process open up a little bit, and then we match the financing as those bids and those costs are known, right? The construction costs are there. So I think part of it is a little bit of patience to let the 21 audit complete, and then let the construction bids kind of come together, and then we just push on the financing piece after that. So that's where we're going. I think that's where we're going to end up at some point, subject to, obviously the council and decisions that are made between now and through the process as well. I think some of the questions we had were, kind of how the payments work. Generally, they're twice a year. You pay interest twice a year, you pay principal once a year. Since we're using and we're looking at a special sales tax, which is collected monthly, disbursements come out. Timing of payments is not an utmost priority like it is for property tax, right? Property tax windows are a lot different than other sales tax windows. I have reviewed that special sales tax and what it generates, and it generates a significant amount of money that obviously the county benefits from, the link, the Convention Incentives Bureau, as well as the city. But we're going to do a little bit more diving into that a little bit more to make sure we can see some coverage amounts, or just makes things feel a little bit more comfortable about how the financing would look as it kind of moves forward as well. And then if there's any other questions or anything that anybody wanted to ask or cover or talk about today, we can try to cover them best we can. There's some things we don't know yet. We don't know, obviously, until we start to get purchasers in line. We know, interest rate, actual payment costs. But remind everybody that we do have a limited amount of revenue, and that's $400,000 a year. That's kind of the maximum amount that we've looked at of supporting $3 million through this process. And so we've got a little bit of work to go, a little bit of ways ahead of us, but I think we'll line the process up a little bit and then kind of move forward and continue to give the council updates on how that process goes.
Council, any questions? Could you tell us a little bit more about how y'all will go about kind of shopping this out for us?
Right, so it's a great question. So for the ability for a city to do a revenue pledge, it really moves the transaction to be a Mississippi Development Bank transaction. It's a conduit body that allows financing. There's no city authority, confirmed with bond counsel. I'm not an attorney, I'm just an accountant, does numbers. But in order to do a revenue-only deal, you would issue through the Mississippi Development Bank, which allows you to set the pledge just to an actual revenue stream rather than it being a full faith and credit pledge. And so through that process, you're allowed to hire a placement agent, which would do a couple of things. One being contacting a wide variety of banks, in-state, out-of-state, numerous institutions, and negotiate kind of the terms, rates, coverages a little bit, come back to us, let us calculate that, evaluate that, and see what's the best offer we can land on. It doesn't slow things down, doesn't make anything different really, I think, but what it does is it kind of narrows the scope down to that revenue pledge, and then give us a little bit more time and a wider array of obtaining financing that's the most streamlined that we can get. And I think that's probably the best path for this project that y'all have in front of y'all now.
Does our audits affect the interest rates that we would be offering?
Audits, it's part of, right? I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Obviously, having most up-to-date financials changes in terms of the number of purchasers, right? There's banking laws, there's regulations, there's a lot of things that go into effect about, the most up-to-date part of the financials or financial information that a city has, or county, or school, whoever they are, as an issue. So the most current and more up-to-date we can get, the more comfortable you can get to get more purchasers available to want to make an offer to buy any sort of obligation. I would say that, in circumstances, we have plenty of cities and counties across the state that have much older finances than the city does here. And it's, sometimes there could be some give or take on how that plays out, right? Obviously, everybody wants to see the most recent and as most up to date as we can, and I think understanding that we're only 30 days away from completing the next audit, I think it's worth an opportunity to let that process finish out and be able to bring that as part of this kind of financing package and discussion with some purchasers of having that relevant information, a little bit more up to date than what we have.
Zach, can you give us a little bit more detail about why it's important that we have the bid amounts in place before we move forward on the bonds instead of, because one of the things obviously is those are estimated prices that are on there. But why is it important for the city to wait until we have more solid amounts before we move forward on the bond?
Yeah, Mayor, great point. I think, most of the projects that we work on for a variety of different issuers across the state, we start thinking about how projects are going to be funded and how the cycle of those projects are going to be bid, designed, and laid out. We take that into account immediately, right? Generally, we take the position that we don't want to just move forward, deliver funds, and then go open some project bids, and they wind up coming in less, right? Or they wind up coming out more. And then you've got a decision to make about certain things that you may need to adjust, scale, remove, and yet we haven't refined, we've already passed through the financing part, but we haven't refined the financing part to match maybe some of the real costs from construction bids and some other things that have kind of come out, right? And we've seen that in a lot of places where we're building a courthouse, right? You're building a lot of vertical construction type pieces where you go through estimates, you open a construction bid, we got a known cost, we can match the financing as close to that as we can to be able to optimize it. In cases a bid could come in significantly higher, or it could come in significantly lower. In which case, we want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward and just making sure the financing matches whatever all the projects are going to total up to be.
And so the good news here is that we have money in place already to get started, but as far as the bond process, and so how long do we have once the council has approved the bonds to move forward? How long do we have to take those bonds out?
So in general terms, the city passes an intent resolution. It's generally about a 2-year window to obtain financing before that resolution would expire there. And so the time window really matches the construction window. That takes precedence, I think, more than most things. And so you have, we're going to move where the projects need to move, I think is best answer that question.
Well, Greg, you're here, and then Kevin, you're here as the project manager. Do y'all have any questions or anything for this? Is this all sound what you were expecting?
Yeah, so, we're already starting, and Joe's not going to get on to me about.
Yeah, but come on up if you will.
But it's ingrained in my head.
He's on Zoom.
He's probably going right now, right? So, Greg and I meet almost weekly now. He joked with me this week, do we just need to meet every week? But we've already started on the conversion of the youth softball to baseball already. Next week, we should probably have 90%, 95% plans done to go ahead and start that piece. That first piece is about $1 million of this overall, which that money's in hand, which is why we got started with that. There's a lot of pieces that we don't need to be involved with. And so Greg has already talked to several splash pad and playground contractors from replacing and adding equipment that was on that list as well. So 2 years is plenty of time to get done what we need to get done. But as y'all know, contractors, when they give us a bid, those bids are only good for 90 days. And so we can't have bird in hand right now holding a bid knowing you're 90 days out from having the money too. So once this is passed, we'll have that safety net to know we can move forward with the rest of it. So that's where we are right now.
Greg, you got anything?
Same speech.
Great.
Yeah, I think we've already started the 90-day part, right? So we're a little bit closer in the window to that. We're probably about 45 to 60 days, I think, away from completing if all things ran smooth, efficient, all the benchmarks were hit in a timely manner, right? And so, we've got a couple more things we're gonna kind of clean up, validate, check off the box a little bit, and then, we move at the pace that the city tells us at this point now, going forward.
And I think one of my questions to you, and you answered for me a while ago, was the city gets the full 3 million deposited here, and then the fees are paid out of that. But right now, we don't have like a real firm amount of fees, just an approximate 3%. Is that total?
Yes, ma'am. Generally, we start with an estimated amount, right? Some fees are guided by statutory authority, some fees are guided by just kind of the way the market and some things are. I tell you is that fees are negotiable, right? And so that's one of the things that we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the list, we'll narrow that thing down, and then once we finalize the full method of sale and the approach that we're gonna take, we'll be able to really start to nail down those costs and focus those things in and streamline that a little bit. But yes, the full proceeds, they're tax exempt proceeds, right? So they're going to be deposited into a special fund. The funds can only be spent on the projects that have been listed, by the intent resolution. And so it'll match, invoices, POs, all those types of things, and all be paid out of a separate fund. And the other good thing is that special sales tax money, by local and private requirements, they're held separate apart as well, right? So we know we have two values that we can see separate than other funds, one being the revenue source and one being the proceeds as they're spent out.
Zach, if you would you tell everybody who you are in Government Consultants and y'all's relationship with the city? We all know that, but a lot of people here probably don't, and people watching, but y'all have worked with us for quite some time, right?
Yes,
Nick, I
sir.
mean, did I call you Zach? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Zach.
I was looking
A
around.
lot of Zachs. There's two other Zachs in the room. I'm so sorry, Nick. Thank you, Jeff. He had to write it out real big for me there.
No,
The mayor needs a vacation.
Mayor, I can promise you, I've been called much worse, I'm sure, our firm's been around for quite some time, right? We've worked on a lot of projects, and our role really is to optimize the financing piece, right? That's really what we do, is we take our direction and we run with it. We go out and design a financial plan that we think works best for issuers, whether it's a city, a county, a school district, utility authority, whatever the project is. And I think our biggest role really is not so much to tell folks, how to do it, so much as just put it in black and white, right? Show the reality of what these things are. As an independent financial advisory firm, right? And we only work with government entities. And so that's really what our goal is to just to say, hey, this is the harsh reality of what we face every single day when we talking about money. And try to prescribe it and design it and lay it out as best we can for folks to understand. But yeah, our firm's been around for quite some time. And in a long time, I think going back, there's been a few folks that partnered in my firm that have worked with the city over the years.
Where's your firm? What's the name of your firm? Where do you located?
Government Consultants, and we're located in Madison,
Madison.
Mississippi. Our office is there, yeah. And Mamie Thompson is one of the partners of our firm as well.
I was about to introduce you. You spoke at the council meeting too. Is there anything you'd like to add, or?
No, Nick has said everything. I couldn't add anything on top of what he says.
Okay, great. Mr. Lewis is going to come
I
up.
just have a couple of questions for government consulting. Could you explain to me again what the intent resolution is?
Well, the intent resolution that was passed by the city is just a resolution that it declares that a city or county, whoever they are, intends on borrowing money. And in that initial intent resolution, you got to define an amount and you got to define a purpose.
Have we done that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the next question is that once we acquire, you want to get all of the bids for all of the projects and then turn them in to you and then?
No, sir, no. If there's, I don't know, as part of the question, part of the discussion, we talked a little bit about this.
Can you hear them? Okay.
Part of the discussion is there's a bulk of the projects are gonna have to all be bid out. I don't know, I'm asking, right? And if we have some things are gonna run through an advertisement period, and those costs are gonna come back, and we're gonna open up bids and find out how much they are, then we want to kind of maneuver financing around that, right? If that's not the case, then we we approach it however that process unfolds, you know, so that's part of this discussion is if there's, I guess you're $4.4 million worth of projects or something, I think I understood, right? So if the bulk of the 4.4, you know, 75% of that is gonna have to go through the procurement process, will require advertising and some other things, we wanna kind of, you know, make sure the financing goes along with that process. If a lot less of that is, then we just approach it differently.
Understand?
Yeah, so we just, you know, some projects that are gonna be bid out in whole, right? So for instance, if you were building a courthouse for $10 million, you have one big bid at $10 million, we would wait until you open the construction bid and we would match financing at that moment. I think here you have a lot different circumstances, right? So that's part of what we wanna make sure we understand as well.
Yeah, and also just a little bit more detail on your question about the intent resolution. Explain what we voted on at the last council meeting. Can you do that, Jeff?
Yeah, the last council meeting, all you really did was, you approved a resolution, memorializing the fact that you published correctly in accordance with the state statute for people to submit a protest petition. And the next council meeting on this coming up Tuesday will be a voters, and we only received 900 and some odd protests, and that's insufficient to trigger a referendum. That's what's happened next.
Would there be one after that, or would that be the last one that we vote on?
No, there will be another resolution. It'll be the bond resolution, essentially directing the sale, the full parameters and those pieces. Yeah.
And that'll come at the next one?
Probably not, I wouldn't think, right?
I mean, after this meeting, the following meeting, when will we do that? Maybe I should ask. When we get closer to y'all doing the bonds?
Yeah, I think one is timeline, and then you know, the lawyers drafting the resolution. That probably more of a legal question than it is on our side. I mean, once we know the timeline a little bit on the finance side, that resolution is decided by the council, decided by the city.
Let me ask you this. You used a phrase when you first came up, start talking, and the word you used, it don't sit well in the community. You used the word delay. It's going to be delayed. And that's all we've been wrestling with for the past year and a half, and my constituents are tired of that word delayed. I'm tired of it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I hear you saying now you finna delay it again until you can look at your number. I'm not questioning your numbers. That's what you do, you're a consultant.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning that. But I want you to see it from a constituent standpoint.
Yes, sir.
How they feel about it. When are this project gonna get started? We voted on it, so what's gonna happen then? They asking me, well, he came up with this now, what he gonna come up with next? Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, I understand, yeah. I don't intend to delay anything that the city wants, you know. I'm here to do what the city needs to be done. I just give you some sort of ideas of some other things, and the audit is one thing that I brought up. It's 30 days, and if we could do a resolution at the next meeting or whatever subsequent meeting that the council decides on, that's the next step in the process. And then we will move as expeditiously as we can move through that process.
I have a question for Mr. Stafford. I mean, you the project manager over this project, right?
Yes, sir.
Where are we at right now on the updating of the vendors on their project as far as them, their priority, their organizing the project, and how long would that take?
Well, what I just heard is that there's no reason for us to delay any of the aspects that need to be designed and bid out. Now, the council has not fully approved to go after the bonds yet, but apparently if we go ahead and have the designs done, bid, contractor in hand, by the time that happens, like I mentioned a minute ago, we're more than 60 days just to go through the bidding process, right?
So 30 days is not feasible?
To do what now? So like I mentioned earlier, the softball conversion to baseball has already started. We're going to advertise that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then, but we were operating under the assumption we only have 1.4 million, so we're kind of.
It's a little over 1.5, actually.
Right, but the difference is we got a 4.4 budget, and that we'd like to do, but what I just heard is we can go ahead and tackle the 4.4 and not delay. And so now y'all haven't approved that yet, but if y'all approve it, that would set the confidence to move forward doing that. Now, having said that, The softball is about $1 million. Greg's looking at re-roofing, I think there's 4 or 5 in Probst Park, and anyway, all throughout the city. He's already talking to the roofers, he's already talking to the playground folks. So that's kind of the other $500,000 that he's using right now. Greg's kind of acting like a general contractor in that regard, because we all know that on a project where you're going to be painting and a restroom concession, putting in bricks, and then redoing the roof, those are 3 different trades, and there's no reason to pay GC to do that. So we're working with him to get individual quotes from local folks to redo those things. I know he can talk more to who he's talked to already. Whereas the field, the turf, and the fencing, for instance, that we're doing right now, those are going to be 2 separate contracts. So again, we're acting like the general contractor. It's the same concept we did for the amphitheater to save money, and it did. It saved us about 10%. So anyway, so that's moving forward. So to your point, and with y'all's approval, I know y'all aren't voting today, we would move forward and do the whole package that y'all already, the list. And I don't know in y'all's, this is a question, in y'all's intent resolution, I know you've got the scope somehow defined. How broadly or how specifically is that defined? Because we have a list that's very specific of what that 4.4 is. And my curiosity is, and I'm going to use an example, East Columbus Gym, the interior lights. Greg's already got a quote for that. And the budget we set aside was $10,000, but he's got a quote for $4,800. So if it comes in under budget, can we rob Peter to pay Paul, put that money somewhere else in that scope? Or is that just tough, that money that gets spent?
My understanding, the resolution matches what the local and private legislation is written for, right?
Got it.
Parks and recreation.
Gotcha. So it's wide.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great, that's great.
It covers all the same thing.
Did I answer your question? Okay, good.
So, yeah, so I guess we're
No, that's
60 days, right? You would have everything, for 30 days, you'd have everything published and ready to.
Oh, no, there's still pieces of the overall plan that haven't even been designed.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So I would say some of that would take 30 to 60 days to get the final design, and then you got another 30 days for advertising, and then you go through the contracting process. So some of it's 120 days out before we hit the streets. But right now, nobody's told us to go because the money's not there. But once the money's there, then we can move forward. So I would need that vote of confidence from the council to say, move forward. So.
Yeah, and I think, on your next meeting, this next resolution the board passes is what pushes us to move forward on the rest of it, right? So I think all those things are gonna sync together here now.
And that's why we want everybody here today, so we could make sure everybody was clear on that. The good news again, for the city is that we do have money in place to begin the work. So the work is beginning, and then we're taking the proper steps to get the bond that will be required for us to do the rest of it. Anybody have any other questions? All right.
I got a comment. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just quick. I mean, I did some of the polling in the city, and most people were for upgrading Probst Park. It was a matter in which they felt like, why are we spending all this money when we could get money and do it in stages? And just about everyone I talked to, most of them love Probst Park. My kids grew up in Probst Park, but I heard estimates anywhere from the interest would be $900,000 what I heard personally in the city council meeting. The interest on it, and that's money just wasted. And if we did it in stages, we could pay for this, and that extra $900,000 would go to that park. And I just don't understand why we're not being fiscally responsible and spending that money as it comes in. Like I said, we've got $1.5 million, which is a great start. And spending that money as it comes in and doing projects instead of trying to all do it at one time and just be fiscally responsible for the city. We already have quite a large debt. Maybe it's not overwhelming, but that's what the citizens really were saying. And I would say today, if you polled the whole citizenry, that you would find that most would be for doing this project, as I am, but just doing it in measured stages instead of trying to do it all at one time. People are afraid it's going to end up like the amphitheater. That's what they're afraid of. And I don't think it will, but that's what most of the citizens told me, and I collected signatures.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, to comment on what he's saying, I've been on this council a while, and we started a project like that. If you go across the river, you'll see it.
Sure.
The amphitheater.
Right.
And I want you to know where we at when we say we want to do it and do it in one shot and be through with it. We don't need another project looking like the amphitheater.
I agree.
We thought we was gonna finish that, but where we at right now? How many years later? 8 years later? 10 years later? It's still not finished. We didn't wanna do this at Post Park. We wanna come in and do it and be through with it. We don't wanna halfway do it.
Well,
That's why.
Was that just halfway done at the amphitheater? You had the money for it. It seems like they've already gone over the budget. It was budgeted for how much? Did they not spend the money on the amphitheater? Why didn't it get finished?
Work sessions are really designed for the council to work.
Okay, well,
Yeah. Well, but I mean-
That's citizen input.
Yeah, citizen input, and we like that, but we need to try to keep things moving too.
Sure.
I can answer a lot of questions about the amphitheater, and maybe we'll have another conversation about that. It's not on the agenda this time.
No, let him go out to the, what the county is building out here. They doing a $12 million project. Ain't nobody saying nothing. They putting 12 million out there. But they talking about us getting 3 million. No, let me finish. Since you let me finish, can I finish, please? Nobody saying nothing in the paper. WCBI ain't saying nothing about the 12 million that they spending in the county on the park, but they talking about the 3 million that we spending in the city.
Well, that's the citizens saying that, though. The citizens are saying that we don't want to go more into debt when we've got that money coming. I mean, why, you could say $900,000 if it goes to that park, just by doing it in stages. That park's been there. That park's not a new park. It's been there for years. My kids played in that park, and it's a wonderful part of the city. It could be again, but why not do it in stages? Why on something like a park like that? Why the rush to do everything at one time when you can save that money and apply it to the park?
Well, I think what they're saying is they want the children of the city to be able to.
Well, I understand.
And let me do this. I appreciate the conversation. I always like it. We're past this stage.
I understand.
This council has voted, and we're gonna move forward now, and we're gonna try to do it in a positive way with all the citizens involved. But the debate that we're having right now is kind of mute.
I understand.
And I understand what the vice mayor is saying, is that the citizens need to be, because Columbus is part of Lowndes County, y'all need to pay attention just as much to what the county's doing as what we're doing in the city. I want us all to work together. You know where my stance is on this. I've been very clear. But once the council has made a decision, the citizens had a chance to vote to make the decision, it's time to move forward in a positive way. That's why we were having this today. But I'm happy to have more conversations with you, and I'm sure Vice Mayor Mickens, but this probably isn't the best place to do it right now. Okay, thank you. Anything else from y'all? Okay, all right, thank you so much. Next, we're going to talk about the Red Cup District. Jamie, do we have somebody that's going to address the... Thanks again, guys. Safe travels.
No, just giving an update. It will not be on the agenda for Tuesday night. Still have some things we're working out. Hopefully we can have it on the second meeting in August.
And what day will that be? The second is August?
15th.
August 15th. We have, is everybody clear on that? We're still working out some topics on the Red Cup District. I know there's some people here today that have been serving on the committee. Do y'all have any things you'd like to say or comment on today? Councilman Jones is not here. He's been one of the ones kind of spearheading it, but is it something y'all would like to add?
I mean, I guess I can just affirm that, I helped draw the map for the district. We did that using the KISS method. It's just trying to make it as small as we could to be conservative, keep it away from churches, schools, playgrounds, etc. We stuck with the time from 10 to 10 because a lot of things and events happen. There used to be noon tunes, for example. You have Market Street usually starts at 10:30, so just 10 to 10 made it easy in everybody's mind to know when it happens. So we're not confusing folks by saying it happens Thursday through Saturday, but it doesn't happen on Sunday through Wednesday. So just keeping everything as simple as possible. We used the color purple because we wanted to use red, but you can't paint streets red to mark the zones. So we used purple, and it could be green, it could be any color, but we thought Falcon colors, so that's our school, and let's go ahead and make it purple. So let's make the cups purple, so then it identifies cup to zones and marks on the ground, on the streets, so everybody knows where to stay and where to be contained. And the idea was originally to just keep it to that small area, see how things go, and if other parts of the community or other people wanted to do the same thing, then they can propose it on their own as well. But that was the whole idea behind everything that's been proposed, and I thought that we were kind of good to go on that. But
Well, I think there's still some things there's some other discussion topics that have come up. I'll be honest with you, one of the discussion topics has been, should we go with the color purple? And the reason being, since it is the high school colors, do we want purple encouraging high school students to drink? Maybe not. So there has been some comments about that. George, did you have something you wanted to say, Mr. Hazard? Yes, come on up.
Yes, I'm on the committee also, and I certainly endorse the smaller district that was approved in the second meeting. The smaller the district, the easier it is to control it, to me. I would ask the council at its further discussions to debate the hours that the alcohol district will be in operation. At the committee's second meeting, as Ryan pointed out, the committee's second meeting led to more days and expanded the Sunday hours as listed on page 4 of the resolution. Do we have it?
We don't have the resolution.
Okay, section 5, page 4 reflects the expansion. These new hours might be easier to monitor, but I think would also mean more time for violations and accidents. To me, the district ought to be a weekend district, not an all-times district, and I hope the council will contemplate going back to Thursday, Sunday at the most. 2 other points. Page 3 certainly puts an increased burden on the permitted businesses, since to keep people out who have bought one somewhere else. To me, human nature makes it increasingly likely that a person will try to enter establishment B with something purchased at establishment A rather than dumping it as he's supposed to in the trash can. And my last point is that even with Chief Daughtry's experience and assurances that he gave the committee at our second meeting, I think it is unwise to add this enforcement burden to a police department that is operating at 80% of its budgeted manpower. So that's a tough decision for the council, but those are my points. Minority view on the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Hazard. Does anybody have any questions?
I think the reason it's a good idea to stop people from coming back in with a cup after they've left is the businesses don't need people going outside of their car and filling up their own drink and then trying to come back in and depriving the business of the sale and drinking stuff that they hadn't bought there. So I think that's a good provision to have.
Any other thoughts or comments? I want to again thank the committee that's been working very hard on this project. I think that we're moving in a good direction and are taking our time and making sure that we do this correctly as we move forward in our decision. All right. At this time, we will move into discussions on the paving project for the city.
Okay. So I have Kevin here to discuss paving because we need direction for you guys. Are you ready to start? Are you ready to start meeting with Kevin? How much are you wanting to spend? Are you going to do an equal split? We just need direction on, are you all ready to tackle this right now?
I know I've ridden with Kevin, and he still needs to ride with each council member.
Yeah, I don't have anything new to announce to anybody, and Jamie actually put this on the agenda, and our point was, is that I've been here twice. I know I presented y'all your list, but there's still a lot of work to go. I would say we're a good 3 to 4 months from being able to wrap up the list. The very next step is to get with you guys and narrow your list down or add to them. And we can't do that until we kind of know what the hedges are we're working between, how much money per ward, how much money overall, what scopes. So those are the 3 big questions we have to have answered. And then at that point, you know, I know Jim, you mentioned, I think it's a little over $5 million right now y'all have in hand. And so the discussion's been, let's not go after a bond, let's spend what we have in pocket right now and move forward. And maybe that's a discussion for future. But again, we're ready to go, but we can't really move anywhere without some of those.
But the needs are not equal. I mean, can you categorize where the greatest need is or which
Yes,
ward?
ma'am. Yeah, as you can imagine, obviously the center of the city where the block and grid streets are, they're the oldest streets, they're the ones with all the utilities underneath. They get probably the most traffic for that matter, the most weighted traffic. No two wards are created equal when it comes to roads. So, but the other side of the point is no two wards are created equal when it comes to drainage either. So it's all varying. So our approach is we take the highest and best need, regardless of where the ward lines are. After we get the streets, then we start putting them in whichever ward they fall in. Some are split, obviously. But in the past, y'all have done lighting projects, sidewalk projects, obviously are now included with all paving. Y'all have done drainage in the past. And so again, those are some of the answers we need to know. What can you include? So we'll move forward.
And I think we also need to discuss, I think in past years, we've added Ward 7 for the mayor, correct?
Yes, in a way. It didn't happen as a Ward 7. What would happen is what monies were left over, and or there was some higher priority that served the entire city streets that hey, we're gonna set aside this amount for the greater good of the entire city. This doesn't come out of any one ward's allocation. But normally that wasn't a big amount, and it definitely wasn't equal to the other wards, so.
Right.
But that's been done.
And yeah, and I mean, I'm, whatever the council wants to do on that is clearly fine by me, because, you know, I'm gonna voice my
You
opinion.
Ward 7 now, huh?
Well, that's what Kevin told me they called it.
Mayor's ward.
Mayor's ward. Mayor's ward. And you know, I'm gonna voice my opinion regardless of whether I have a you know, amount of money to use, but I would say that there are some parking lots.
Well, that's what
that
it
are
primarily in the past been used for.
that really need some attention. And so all I would like to do is just kind of lobby my fellow council members if I could. I am all for, also I would say this because I know Vice Mayor Mickens doesn't have as many bad streets as some of the others, but he's got some drainage issues in there. And I'd like to see him get his fair share for drainage.
Right.
Because the drainage issues affect the quality of the roads.
And one of the discussions y'all have always had is we could easily set a floor that every councilman gets a minimum of this amount for their ward, and then maybe set a max as well, and then everything else balances out. And that max, obviously, times 6 is what the maximum you would want to spend, and that's a discussion of you have money in hand or you go out.
And I think going forward, council too, I think it'll be beneficial to the city, because I always remind people of this, because we get a lot of complaints on the road, but now Columbus, over the past 20 years, has put about $1 million a year into these roads. So it's not like the council has not been trying to get this right, the mayor and council.
Yeah.
This is a difficult process, and we've asked for citizens' input to talk to their councilmen and talk to me if they need to about areas that they think are very critical. So we want this to be a positive process going forward, but I'm all for using it for drainage issues, as you well know.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out, and this kind of goes back to also the Crows Park discussion, is that in 2007, when we were paving, we were paying about $55 a ton for about $1 million to $2 million project. This last time, we were paying right at $100 a ton. City of Starkville just did a $5 million bond, $10 million, I'm sorry, $5 million bond for paving. They got, I believe, it was somewhere between $160 to $180 a ton. This is 2 years removed from what we paid.
Holy cow.
I mean, that's a 60% increase from what we paid just 2 years ago. And so, you know, the Crows Park deal, that money comes in over 10 years. Inflation is going to happen in a 10-year span. So
That's right.
It's not like that money's sitting there frozen in time. So your spending power erodes over time as well. So while
Yeah.
you may pay interest on the front end, you can pay inflation on the back end if you wait. So with all that said, I say that I'm not trying to push y'all to spend more money to pay. I'm just saying it's not getting cheaper. So MSU, we just did $2.5 million with them this summer, and they were at 180 a ton. So.
But while it's unlikely, this is all based on gas prices, so it could come down.
Could come down. Very well.
Well, Kevin, tell us what you would like to see the council do. You and I took about how long? An hour or two to go around, and we discovered we found some roads that weren't on the list.
Well, they were on the list. They didn't make the list that y'all had. They were on, so it was just an error on our part, and so that's been added. That one street we found was added to the list.
Do you?
Because I was curious why it wasn't on there, and I went back and it was. It just didn't make the list.
Do you have a breakdown of all the wards and to say 37% of the roads are in Ward 2 and 42% or 25% are in, is it broken down like that? Seems like that would be easier in my mind to try to figure out how to disperse the money.
It would if y'all didn't change your ward lines all the time. So we have all the roads broken down, but the minute we do that, you know, just like y'all are about to go through redistricting again, we have to change it up.
That's my point right there.
Yeah.
How is redistricting gonna affect these wards being dead. So now you might have 2 million going in one ward because of the redistricting. So would that come into play here? Would you guys have to consider that? Do we wait till is the
When is
redistricting
the
gonna pass?
Yeah, we know y'all doing that.
We gotta have it done by 2025 before the next
Oh,
election.
yeah.
So we
So
don't
that's
need to
what I'm
wait.
asking.
But what you can do, guys, is you can look at what the proposed redistricting is. Y'all haven't agreed on it yet. Y'all are all still studying your wards, but you can look at that, what he gave us, to kind of give you an idea, right, Kevin, of where it might shift. And I believe the majority of the shifting right now is Ms. Stewart's, correct? Because she's lost the most. Is that
I
correct?
looked at the redistricting.
Is that right,
I'm sorry.
Jeff?
As compared to for the road.
Oh, we need to give you a copy of that map. so you can see it.
Everyone else is pretty much the
You're
same.
right that hers is the one that's most out of
Out of
whack
balance.
population wise, but you don't know how when they redraw the lines.
It starts affecting everybody.
Yeah.
The only one that I remember them saying in his current, which is just proposed, the council has not voted on it, is Rusty's, or Councilman Green, excuse me, is the only one that didn't change borders, I believe. Isn't that right?
I think so.
Okay. All right, so what would be the best process for getting these guys? Would you like Jamie to start helping you get them scheduled to go out?
Well, we always just get with them directly and,
Yeah.
and schedule a time. There's no reason, I know James is busy to get
Thank
in the
you,
middle of
thank
that.
you.
But what
Sorry,
I need to know,
Jamie.
and I'm gonna use it.
I just want to make sure they're getting it done.
I'll keep her posted what's happening, right?
She's a little more pushy than you are.
If they
But,
don't show, you can call me.
Let's just say y'all took the $5 million you have in hand, and right now you said at a minimum, the floor is gonna be $5 million spread over the 6 wards. Okay, fine, I have a minimum now. So I know, for instance, Councilman Mickens, we're gonna need to add to his ward to get him up to that floor. We can go ahead and start that discussion and get their priorities in line. And then if y'all change the money and the 5 becomes 6 or 7,
That's top
we can just keep adding and move and add more streets into their priority. I don't mind doing
I
that.
think we ain't large money, are
See how much you're gonna give each one.
No, yeah, see how much you're going to use in each ward. We've got, how much, Jim? I have those numbers, but I don't have, it's like,
What is our match for the Fifth Avenue project with MDOT?
It is around 400,000. I don't know why I have 440 in my head, but I think the council approved at one time up to a max of 400,000.
Okay, so then we have 4.7
Got it.
in hand.
And when does that fund when is the,
So we get payments in the end of July and in January. So if we didn't start paving until January, we would have another 1.1 million with the so you'd have 5.8 at
So
that
you
point.
received our July.
And then-
payment, right?
What's that?
We've already received the July payment.
We've received the July payment, that's
All right,
correct.
so that puts you at 5.8 in January, but realistically, we're not going to probably be done with the project till after July. So realistically, you'll get another payment, so that could be 6.9 at the end of the day that you'll have by July of next year. Is that?
That sounds better.
That's correct.
that does sound better.
So all of a sudden, if y'all just said $7 million, let's just say round numbers, then we can start at that. And know that you've got the money in hand.
And we ain't borrowing nothing right now.
No borrowing
We
nothing.
ain't borrowing nothing.
No. Now, that made me forget what I was going to say. So it probably wasn't that important, but it was something on the paving.
But the things we'll do is get with the council, and then once y'all decide your list, then we also have to get with the utility companies, and then we
Yeah.
have to go out and assess the streets for sidewalk needs, manhole adjustments, water valve adjustments, all potholes, but base failures that have to be specifically fixed before we overlay. There's a lot of things that go into fixing the streets, not just a pure overlay. So that takes time.
So we probably need to kind of flesh out a timeline on this. If we're trying to use these numbers and get, because the council members are busy when they're not doing stuff for the city, so we need to, it sounds like we need to get a timeline together and start moving, trying to get those numbers, or those times.
Timeline on 7 million?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Timeline on 7 million.
Kevin, are you aware of the little over $1 million that we gave Light and Water that they got matched for their water projects? Do they affect any of the streets that we're looking at?
Short answer is yes, they will. It's gonna be around MLK, that where one of the lift stations is. There's some upgrades there, but for the most part, no, very minorly. But what we do and what they have, are a lot of upgrades to the water system that they're doing, as the gas system is as well. We send them the full list of all the streets that are even being considered, because what I don't wanna do is get with the council person and they say, I wanna do this street, and then Light Water pulls it off the list, well, we both just wasted our time, talking about the streets they're fixing to tear up. So They're a group where I just get them holistically to look at it, and what I tell them is in the next 5 years, if you're doing any major upgrade that's gonna impact your street, we're not gonna touch it. We want you to tear it up first. Their response to me normally is, we'll probably hurry up a project, go ahead and get it done if we know y'all are looking to pave it, so we don't delay y'all paving it if you're saying it already needs to be paved.
Hey, I know what it was, Kevin, I was gonna get you to say, because I'm not sure everybody's heard this yet, but we got the city got a really nice grant from MDOT for a bridge over on Waterworks. Can you tell them?
Sure, y'all remember in 2021, y'all approved us to apply for the Emergency Road and Bridge Fund, 100% funding from MDOT to replace the Waterworks Bridge that goes over the Lux. At that time, it was $3.6 million, no harm in applying, wasn't awarded. It's not in terrible shape, I know we cross over it every day, but it is eligible. So they magically, I went on vacation a couple weeks ago on Wednesday. Thursday they emailed and said, hey, the legislature funded this Emergency Road and Bridge Fund 4th time now. They said this time, instead of asking for applications, we want you to go back and fund what you didn't fund last time. So they emailed and said, hey, are y'all still interested in doing this bridge? And luckily they said, can you reevaluate the money that you've asked for, and does it need to go up? And of course it does. So I went back and evaluated it, and it went up 10% over a 2-year period. And so again, going back to that inflation, right? That's how much you lose in your spending power. So asked them for about $4 million and change, and they came back, and they said they needed it back by Monday. I come back from vacation, and last week we get an email, boom, you've been funded. So that's a good thing. So that bridge is going to get done. And Joe asked me to go back on vacation here soon, so it happened again. Right?
Yeah, that's how much is it again?
$4,012,000.
See, that's a great infrastructure grant that we've got for the city.
And I guess while we're talking too, if y'all aren't aware, MDOT led a project to pave 82, starting at the Macon Meridian exit, going all the way to the Lux Bridge. And they're going to do some improvements along that right of way as well. Falcon Contracting won that bid, so they're local, so that money will be pumped back here. A little over $19 million.
19 million, guys.
And tell me the parameters again?
They said they're starting at Macon Meridian exit and coming all the way to the Lux Bridge. So if y'all know where the train tracks at 14 go underneath the bypass, you go just a little past that, there's another bridge where the Lux goes under, right there at the Lux where they're going to stop. So they're not going to East Columbus, but they're picking up all the other interchanges. So,
and say that amount again, 19?
It's 19.2 is what I have in my head.
Will it pick up around 18th Avenue? I missed you.
Correct. Correct.
That's terrible.
Yeah, no, that's the worst. That's probably what prompted a lot of it.
Now, why would they replace that bridge? It's not necessary.
No, it's necessary. It's posted, but it's not posted to the fact that it's closed, right?
Okay.
So that's why I say when it qualifies, it has some issues that limit the weight factor to it, of which is not a factor to the city. So.
My last thing on the paving, can you give us a list of the streets that get the 5,000 traffic count per day threshold?
That with me, and I'll say, the debate in the past has been to pull out the high level 5,000 vehicles per day, streets or not, and let that be its own board and tackle it so no one councilman, as a matter of fact, I remember last discussion we had was Councilman Gavin wanted 5th Street by the hospital to be shared by all, and he lost that battle and had to use his money to pay for it. And so, but to that defense, Councilman Mickens spent his road money on Lindbergh, which is a majorly traveled road, which ate into his budget last time a good bit as well. So those streets in the city in general that are over 5,000 are Gardner Boulevard, Lindbergh, 14th Avenue, Military Road, Highway 50, Blue Cut, 5th Street at the hospital and at the Magnolia Bowl, and then 18th Avenue. So, and of course, those affects wards 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Ward 1 is the only one that doesn't have a city-owned street. Of course, that's 69, but that's MDOT control. So, and of course, 182 is MDOT controlled. So, anyway, those are the major streets that are over 5,000 per day, which affects again 5 and 6 wards.
Okay. Any other questions?
How many of those are scheduled to be,
All right, go ahead.
be scheduled this paving cycle?
No, I didn't have that one ready in my back. I can get it though. I'll say this, in your ward, Lindbergh's on the list, and it needs it. Basically, it stops at Councilman Mickens' ward, and everything north of that needs it. So that'd be your ward.
Well, just send me those, I can look over it, we don't have to do this right now.
Thank you guys very much. And we've got one more topic which is important. It's the budget calendar, but I want to say this before I forget. I've been gaveling at Mr. Strauss here a little bit, but I also want to recognize him because if y'all not noticed before, he's the one that goes around town regularly helping kill the weeds around town and stuff on his own. his own expense, and he has also has been very supportive of the early childhood development program that we had last year. He made a contribution to that. So he is a good citizen with a lot of questions, but he is out there trying to do things for the city too. I would be remiss not to thank you for that, especially I felt bad because I kept gaveling you down. Okay, now, the budget calendar. Jamie, I believe you've got a preliminary budget. Y'all have that in front of y'all?
Yep.
The one that she has put together with Jim is also in line with what is the requirements by the Audit and Accounting Guide for municipal budgeting. So as you will see, August 3rd will be, which is next Thursday, will be our first public reception meeting on the budgeting process. And instead of doing them last year, we did them and for the past 2 years, we've done them at the Trotter.
That's department head.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the department head, Jack. I'm glad you're watching me. That doesn't start until the 22nd. Those will be here in this room because we've used the Trotter in the past and we just didn't get the numbers to, I think I have to go back there again. We've got plenty of seating here and it will be on Facebook Live too for people who want to watch. Jamie, do you have anything you want to say about it?
No, just that, this is just tentative, and this is just, preliminary, so if we get to a place where, you're not, let's just say like on the 24th where you don't adopt, tax levies, we'll just keep updating this. We'll just keep updating this through the process.
And the council is welcome at any time to come in and sit on meetings or visit with folks and be a part of the process. We want the council to be as much of the process as they have time to be. Also, Jim, will you speak again about the new software that we have? We've mentioned it several times, but.
Yeah, so the new software is being implemented now. Training for the department heads will be on the 2nd.
Yes.
And then each of the city council and the mayor will get an email. You are all categorized as reviewers, so you can, once you get the email, you can go in and put in your password, and you can actually go in and you can't change anything, but you can look at it and see the progress that's going on in the different funds and stuff like that.
And when it means you can't change anything, it means on that what you're looking at. You obviously can change things when we leave, but just not in the system.
So you don't have to worry about
screwing everything
you
up.
don't have to worry about screwing
Plugging
anything
around.
up, but just going in and looking at it and stuff.
And then eventually, citizens will be able to log
Correct.
in and look, right?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So we're excited about that, and we're looking forward to the budgeting process. All right, that's the last thing on our agenda. Council, do y'all have any other comments or anything you'd like to discuss before we adjourn? All right, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.